That's our buddy Dean Obeidallah, my SiriusXM colleague. His show is available on the Progress channel, where you can hear me right now, radio channel 127 from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Dean Obeidallah, DeanRadio.com is his website. He's got an amazing Substack newsletter. In fact, today's is particularly incredible. Tim Walz actually did go to Iraq and Afghanistan, and then he worked in Congress to help veterans. You can find it at deanobeidallah.substack.com, or just go over to substack.com and in the little search part there, plug in Dean's Report, and you will find it. Dean, welcome back to the program. It's so great to have you with us.
Thanks, my friend.
Yeah, tell us about this. I want to start, well, first of all, today's piece is worthy of a conversation on its own. Tell us about Tim Walz actually going to Afghanistan and Iraq during a war.
The corporate media are sheep, Tom, as we know, and that they all go in one direction without using this thing called Google. Now, in reality, I had Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison on my show Monday. He comes in every month. He's my buddy. We're both Muslims. He's my buddy. And he said he served in the house with Walz. And what people don't know is that Tim Walz, on his own, went to Iraq and Afghanistan as a member of Congress in his first term. So I Googled it. I found articles from 2007 and 8 in the Minnesota papers. So my article is based on that he didn't go because he was deployed. He went because he chose to go, because he wanted to talk to the soldiers there and see what more they need. And he came back, and for his 12 or 13 years in Congress, made fighting for women and men of our armed services and the veterans his number one priority. That's all he did. That was his main obligation. So he didn't stop serving when he left the National Guard in 2005. He has never stopped serving our nation, and he never stopped serving the people he served with in the National Guard, and since then in Congress. So it documents a lot of his work in the National Guard, where he was stationed, where he served, what he did. What's also not getting covered, 2005, he had surgery for damage to his eardrums from the artillery fire from working in the National Guard. So he actually had to have medical surgery done, and that's shortly before he retired from the National Guard. He's 41 years old.
Yeah. And just to clarify for everybody what we're talking about here, these scurrilous attacks against him. 5 years ago, I believe, in 2019, he was talking to a group of constituents when he was in Congress about how we need to get weapons of war off the streets. And he just made this offhand comment like, I carried weapons of war when I went to war. And what he meant was when I was in the military, because he didn't actually serve in a war zone. He misspoke. But that was one word in one comment that he said once 5 years ago. It's not like, Donald Trump, bragging about stuff that hasn't happened, that never happened over and over and over and over again. And Tim and JD Vance then comes along and goes, oh yeah, this is stolen valor. He's lying for political gain. And he keeps repeating these lies about Tim Walz, and it's just reprehensible. It's just disgusting.
It is. And also JD Vance said that Tim Walz abandoned his troops and didn't go to Iraq. So they had one part of it was a lie that Tim Walz said you're going to go to Iraq, I'm not going to go. Tim Walz actually put his retirement papers in before his unit got a notice that they were actually going to go to Iraq.
Right.
Tim Walz could have retired at 20 years. He re-enlisted and stayed 4 more years because of 9/11, because he wanted to serve his nation. And he was sent to Europe during Operation Enduring Freedom to do support for the troops who were actually in Afghanistan fighting at the time, and they thought they were going to get shifted over to Afghanistan. They didn't, but they were there. He was there for 10 months away from his family.
Yep.
He was sent many times. He was deployed to Norway, to the Arctic Circle, and other places, sacrificing time away from his family. It is despicable that JD Vance, who did serve 4 years, and that's honorable, but in the time that Tim Walz is in Congress serving, helping our veterans, there's JD Vance hanging out with Silicon Valley billionaires like Peter Thiel, hanging out, hobnobbing with them so they can make him millions of dollars and then bankroll his campaign for the Senate ultimately years later.
The great Dean Obeidallah, the Dean's Report. Go to Substack.com and plug in Dean's Report. Check it out, or DeanObeidallah.substack.com. Dean, thanks so much for dropping by. It's always
have fun at DNC.
There you go.
Hopefully we'll get you on when you're in the DNC. I'm going to be back in New York.
That'll be a hoot.
Designated survivor.
Okay.
So I'll be back in New York.
Thanks, Dean.
Take care.